there, it's Janelle Johnston from Corporate Training and Life Coaching Institute. Now I'm just about to step in with a client, but before I do, I was thinking about how I can add value to you and your business this week. And I was thinking about the very important skill of listening. Now, why is listening important? Well, how do you feel when you're not listened to? For me, I feel really disrespected. I feel that what I have to say isn't of value, and I actually just feel that I lack importance in regards to this other person that is not listening to me effectively. So if you're a leader and 80% of the time you're talking to your people is you talking and 20% is them talking, then you're making it all about you, because you can't understand your people's world unless you let them talk, listen to their world and understand what frustrates them, how you can support them, what inspires them. So it's really about listening and getting in their world. So today what I'd like to do is talk about the 5 levels of listening. Now, the 5th level is ignoring. I know none of you do this, but it does happen. But can you imagine how you would feel when someone completely ignores you? So that is level 5. And sometimes as a customer, that when you're going into a retail store and the person really doesn't want to be there, that's serving customers, you can feel that it's level 5 listening, because it's like they're completely ignoring you. You're trying to get service and they're just pretending that you're not there. So level 5 is ignoring. Level 4 listening is pretend listening. I know, I'll put my hand up, I have done it. And I bet some of you have too. And my husband thinks he's pretty good at it when he's watching the football and I'm passionate about something that's happened in my business, and he's nodding his head attentively as if he's listening. And then I ask him, sweetheart, what did I just say? And he doesn't know. He has this grey look on his face as if to say, I'm sprung. That's pretend listening. It's going through the politeness of saying, yes, I'm here, but really you're in your world of busyness. And haven't we all been there? We've got our laptop that we're on. I remember a boss I had in the past who would be on his laptop and I'd be trying to communicate with him and he'd be just pretending, and I'd walk off because it was like, well, why should I bother? So that's pretend listening, the 4th level. The 3rd level is selective listening. Now this is a doozy. When I think of pretend listening, I think about going to a party, and you're at a party and you're meeting strangers and you might be having a conversation with someone you've just known, and you're talking about a subject and they're sort of, their eyes are glazing over a little bit, just nodding to be polite. And then you change the subject and you bring up something that they're interested in, and suddenly you can see a shift. Their body changes, their body language changes, their eyes light up, because suddenly you were talking about something that they're passionate about and now they're listening. So again, selective listening, if I think about it, it's all about them. Because it's like, don't want to listen to this because it's not important, but I'll listen to this part because, yes, I'm excited about that. I think about my son when I think about selective listening, and for those of you that have got kids, you know that they get passionate and they're talkative and they're talking about something that they think is important. And my son, who's nearly 17 this year, he's really passionate about video games, and he plays this game called RuneScape. And he's so passionate about it, and he'll come out and he'll say, Mum, and he'll tell me about different levels and what he's bought. And now, I am not interested in RuneScape. I am completely not interested in it. And so it's a challenge for me to step up my listening skills, because although I'm not interested in the RuneScape game, what I am interested in is my son and the relationship that I have with him. So if my son has a passion and thinks that this game RuneScape is important to him, then I've got to lift my game and make sure that he understands he's important to me by listening to his passion. Now, level 2 listening is a great place to be. It's attentive listening. And what that means is that you are completely listening and hearing what the other person is saying. However, you're still coming from your own place. And what I mean by that is when someone's talking, you've got this little voice in your head saying, is that right or wrong? Or you want to give them advice. And so you're still coming from your world. It's all about, okay, you're judging. Is that right or wrong? I'm going to give advice. This is how you should do things. So even though you're listening to the words and you can recite the words back to them, you're listening that effectively, it's still coming from your own place. Now, number 1 level of listening is empathic listening. Now, empathic doesn't mean sympathetic. Empathic means that you are coming from a place that you are really understanding and looking to understand the other person's world. So it's not about right or wrong, and even when they're saying things that may conflict with your values or conflict with something that you would do, you're really stepping back and delving deep into understanding why they think that way. And you're holding off advising until they ask you for it. It's about, okay, and you're just delving and letting them talk. Now, this is a beautiful place to be as a leader, because what happens is that even if someone comes to you, your staff member comes to you with a challenge, that you get them to start thinking for themselves by asking them more questions. So rather than say, this is what I think you should do, they come to you about time management, a project, and they're saying, I'm having a real challenge about time management. So instead of saying, okay, this is what you need to do, get your diary out, and you're telling them what works for you. Instead of doing that, you ask more questions and you keep delving, because they may come up with a solution that's even better than yours. So you're allowing them to think for themselves. If I think about the times when I'm empathic listening really well, and I can tell you when I'm coaching, that's what I'm doing. However, when I think about my son, I remember a time when I went to Perth, and it was Friday. I got home really late on a Friday night and I was exhausted. And my son came to me and said, Mum, I've got a real challenge. Well, he didn't say that. He said, Mum, I'm really annoyed. And I said, oh, okay, what happened? And he said to me, Mum, I was at school. I hate the cooking teacher. And she's so nasty. I'm not going to school anymore. I should have sworn at her. I should have done this. And I should have embarrassed her. And so he was saying all of this stuff that as a parent, I was actually thinking, hold on a minute. In my mind, my mini-me, the first thing I wanted to say was, you've got to go to school. It's important. It's about your education. So I wanted to advise. That's the first thing I wanted to do. But I didn't. So what I did was say, tell me more. And then my son started telling me, well, Mum, I was at the cooking lesson and we all had an ingredient and we had to write down, explain what the ingredient was and describe it somehow. And he said, so what I did was I had cream as my ingredient and I said, well, it's white and it's creamy, okay? Now, what the teacher did was then say to him in front of the class, she said, Dylan, a 5-year-old could have described it that way. Now, he was embarrassed. He said, I was embarrassed. The class were laughing at me. And he said, I was really, really angry, Mum. I wanted to swear at her and I wanted to get really angry and embarrass her and say something nasty to her. And so what I did was I held back and I could hear the little advising little voice in my head. However, I stopped myself and I said to him, okay, so what would happen if you did that? And he said, well, I would have felt really good. I would have, and then the class would have laughed. And I said, okay, and then what would have happened? And then he said, well, I would have got detention. I would have had to go and, to the principal's office and get detention. I said, oh, okay. Then what would have happened? And then he said, well, and then I would have had to stay back. And I said, oh, okay. And what would that mean? And he said, well, that would mean I'd have to, I wouldn't have as much time at home. I said, oh, okay. And then he just stopped. And then he said to me, you know what, Mum? He said, I didn't do that because he said, I'm responsible. And he said, I might be young, but he said, I'm still mature enough to not do that. I said, that's fantastic, sweetheart. And he said, he had this smile on his face and he said, see, he goes, I did the right thing. And then he walked off. Now, instead of me saying, you've got to go to school, you would never say that, he actually came up with that conclusion himself and he owned it. He absolutely owned it. Now, it can be challenging to really be in the moment. It can be challenging to hold back that advising, that judging, something hits your values. It's so fascinating to be able to build that muscle and to really enter someone else's world. And sometimes your opinions change as well. So my tip this week is to really think about what level of listening am I at? And not only with the people that you lead, you come home, you've had a busy week, you've got kids, you've got your partner, put your phone down, close your laptop and have some real quality time with the people that you love. I hope you enjoyed this tip that I've shared with you today. And I really look forward to sharing more tips along the way in regards to leadership and how we can be more and become more and to achieve more in our lives. So have a great week and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. See you.